Good morning. All right, that's the energy we need in this room, right? We're trying to solve one of the greatest threats facing humanity. We need everybody to be on board. I want to start by first thanking UCF and the VoLo Foundation for their support in making this event happen. This is the second of 3 events that they're committing to happen here in UCF and in Orlando. And really the commitment to advance the conversation, the dialogue around solutions to this climate crisis. It's too often we go to summits where we're talking about the problem, and the one thing I love about this event is it's really focused on what we can do to solve it. So let's give them a round of applause, please. So over the past week, I've actually had the privilege to participate in dialogues around climate solutions at various levels. Last week, I was at the United Nations headquarters for a total of 5 days, engaging with heads of state and other delegates at the UN Climate Action Summit and the Sustainable Development Goals Summit. I was happy to be one of 15 Orlando delegates. This is the first time in our history where we actually brought a group of Orlando leaders up to the UN to participate in this. And we had our UCF's very own Jim Bacchus, who runs our Geo Center, which was tremendous to be with him. And yesterday was also the Florida Energy and Climate Summit in Tampa with Commissioner Nikki Fried, who is really trying to convene state leaders around what we can do to the threats of climate change, and again, very focused on solutions. I got to sit on a panel around the energy-water nexus, and there's a lot to unpack in that, but certainly a lot of good dialogue. And then even last night, we had an amazing welcome reception to this summit, hearing from the new Chief Resilience Officer for the state of Florida, Dr. Julia Neschwit, and her plans to work with local leaders across the state of Florida to ensure that we develop a statewide vulnerability and risk assessment, a resilience plan, and so much more. By the way, if you missed out last night, you missed out big time. I'm sorry you weren't able to join us. Next time, though. But at the end of the day, across the board, at the international, at the state, and now at the local event focused on climate, the message was loud and clear. The science is clear and unequivocal. We have to unite around the science, and we must achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050 if we are intending to stay under the 1.5-degree target that Paris Climate Agreement was trying to hit. The terminology is also beginning to change to things like climate crisis and climate emergency. Hearing that from the Secretary General at the United Nations was a bit of a shock, and I'll tell you that that's starting to be woven throughout all of these dialogues. Youth are vital stakeholders in the decision-making process and deserve meaningful roles at the table. At the UN, they were talking about potentially developing these youth assemblies focused on providing input to the General Assembly on many different matters of sustainable development. And then the focus of needing to really highlight cities and the institutions within those cities as core pieces to address the climate crisis. Because at the end of the day, the impacts that we're talking about are happening in our backyard, and the solutions that will benefit our community will happen in our backyard as well. Most people don't realize, but cities and the institutions that make up our cities contribute to 70% of global climate change emissions today. And by 2050, as our population grows from 54% in cities to 75% in cities, of course, we have a lot of work to do to ensure that we aren't continuing on the same trajectory. Over half of those cities that I'm talking about by the year 2050 aren't even built yet. We have an ability to, from the ground up, build prosperous, healthy, cleaner, sustainable communities. Orlando is no exception to this. We're one of the fastest growing, we're in the top 3 fastest growing city regions in America. We have a net 1,000 to 1,500 people moving here every week to live, work, or to learn. And obviously that doesn't even account for the visitation, right? 2018, we saw 75 million people come to Orlando to play. And that means about 200,000 people per day are here in addition to our population, using our resources, producing waste, making an impact, and then leaving on a plane back home, and we have to deal with some of those unintended consequences of economic development. So all of this on top of disruptions, of course, with extreme weather events that have real implications on our economy and our way of life. So we find ourselves at this really critical time in history where we can correct the trajectory. We have the ability to do so, but it's going to take innovation, it'll take creativity, it'll take partnerships and new collaborations that have yet to be made, and that's where everyone in this room and thousands of people working on this every single day come into play. Climate corrections is not about the problem, as I started out saying. It's about the solutions for our community, our country, and our world. So, before we get started on this jam-packed day of unbelievable speakers and breakouts and tours, I want to engage us as an audience. And I always like to first engage with who is around you. So for about 1 minute, I want you to introduce yourselves very quickly, and we're gonna take a selfie. This is our selfie opportunity to post up on social media that you are here working to solve the climate crisis. I encourage you to put the nice emblem of Pegasus in the background. So please take a minute, and I guarantee you 1 minute, and I'm gonna stop us, but please engage, take a selfie, post it up on social media, and we'll get the show on the road. Go for it. Come on, I see this table back here not doing selfies. What's the deal? We need to document this. This is critical, historic. I need selfies going on over here. I see in the front, we're good. I see some people getting up, excellent. Back there, I see Dave Norvell not taking selfies. You got 15 seconds. Get the picture in. There you go. Good one, Rod. That looks like a good one there. Post that one up. By the way, hashtag Climate Corrections 2019. So we do have a hashtag for this event, Climate Corrections 2019. Okay, let's take our seats. Thank you for indulging us in that. A good friend of mine once told me that we replicate what we celebrate, and I totally believe in that. It's important for us to celebrate what we're doing today, to share it with the world, because that builds the momentum around the dialogue and shows that here in Orlando and at UCF, we're taking this seriously. And in less than a week from the UN Climate Summit closing up, we're already peaking up and starting a whole nother event talking about solutions. So next, I get to introduce the masterminds behind today's event, the co-directors of Climate Corrections 2019, Abigail Axelrod and Yada Watson-Cologne. Before I do this, yes, we'll give them a round of applause, but before, I want to do a little introduction just so you know a background on them. Abigail Axelrod's professional history is decorated with service in nonprofits across fields in education, in healthcare, and in arts. Currently, she's the program director at the VoLo Foundation, director of the Climate Corrections, and runs Useful Views, a platform aimed at developing philanthropy. And Yada Watson-Cologne accelerates sustainability solutions and operational and academic opportunities at UCF. She works as the sustainability strategist in our sustainability initiatives, and by providing multidisciplinary training and engagement opportunities for students, faculty, and staff, she fosters a culture of sustainability on campus that expands to our global community. Yada graduated from the University of South Florida and has a master's in global sustainability before returning to her hometown here in Orlando to lead the charge at UCF. So with that, now let's welcome both Yada and Abby.
We get these. Well, good morning, everyone. A few thank yous to get us started. So first, a huge thank you to Chris Castro. You guys are in for a real treat. He is truly the master of ceremonies, so thank you again, Chris, for being our MC today. Yes. And then thank you to UCF, primarily Sustainable Initiatives Program. Their hard work and ingenuity we couldn't have done that without them. So thank you again to UCF. And then I would also like to welcome all of you here today to this day of conference sharing. I hope, like Chris said, you take a moment to meet a lot of new people. That is really what this conference is all about, connecting all of you to the solutions and one another, because that is how we'll push all of our climate solutions forward. So I too had the opportunity last week to attend the UN Climate Summit. And while there were many sombering moments there, there are also a lot of moments of hope. Young people like Greta, those young leaders, they're really lighting up the stage for climate solutions. And so I see we have a lot of young people here today, and thank you for being here. Thank you for also being a part of this with us. It's really important that you continue on with all of our action plans. And likewise, there are massive coalitions out there like #WeAreStillIn, which is led by World Wildlife Fund and Ceres and Climate Nexus. And they are a coalition of over 3,000 businesses, industries, and organizations that are leading this charge for the We Are Still In to the Paris Agreement. So this second annual conference, again, really aims to bring you into this conversation. So I hope that you will take today, and by the end of today, think about what you will do by next Thursday, basically. It's a great saying, right? All you need is just 1 week to make a difference. And if you can stay in it for 1 week, see if you can make it to 2 weeks, and then 1 month, and then a year. And that will really make the change. So again, thank you for committing to be part of this today. For my last thank you, but certainly not least, please join me in giving a big hand to my co-director and who I owe the greatest amount of appreciation and thanks to, Jara Watson. Hold on.
Thank you, everyone, and good morning. And likewise, I'd love to give a big thank you to Abby Axelrod and the VoLo team. It is through their gracious generosity that we're able to make sure that inclusion is a huge part of our effort. A lot of times we have these wonderful conferences, but they're not accessible to young people due to the cost. So it's wonderful to have a local conference that not only our UCF students can attend, but our Central Florida students, K through 12, and our higher education partners at an accessible price. So thank you so much to VoLo Foundation for their partnership, their collaboration, and their generosity. I especially want to thank our speakers, those of you who traveled out of state to be here. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to climate solutions and your commitment to joining us in accelerating those solutions and giving those of us here today access to those conversations and methods of engagement. A little bit later, I'll talk a little bit more about our engagement expo, but it's a wonderful opportunity to, again, move these conversations out of this ballroom, out of our breakout sessions, and into our daily lives, because that's what we're all here for. We see a lot in the media, especially our youth, who are plugged into a lot of startling news about the crisis that we're facing. And sometimes that can be debilitating. But when we all come together with events such as these, we're able to find that hope, find those perspectives, and find those solutions to accelerate together. So I invite you all to join us in our Engagement Expo this afternoon to find those solutions. Another great treat we have is we have artwork from our UCF students that are expressing their visions of the future and their visions of sustainability. So during our expo, I invite you to engage in our art walk as well. As a sustainability specialist for UCF sustainability initiatives, I get to have my hands in a lot of different pots, including co-directing this conference with Abby. But our mission is to accelerate solutions campus-wide. We look for that nexus, that triple bottom line between the environmental, economic, and social responsibility, so every opportunity on campus can be engaged from a social sustainability dimension. Because sustainability isn't just my job, it's everyone's job. And so it's a wonderful position to be in, to engage with folks like you in our community and in our campus to accelerate solutions for our campus. And we have a long history of sustainability on campus, and we've done great work in our built environment, including reducing our energy consumption by 42% since 2007, when President Hick committed us to carbon neutrality by 2050. I hope some of you will enjoy our tours this afternoon of some of our great assets here on campus, including our organic community garden and our district energy plant. And I want to welcome you to engage in our sustainable development goals. So while most of us are from the Central Florida community, all the solutions we engage with locally have a global impact. So please take a look at our booklet and on our website at our Sustainable Development Goal Key so you can keep track of how you are fitting into that larger picture. And so, again, I want to thank you all for attending the conference today. Thank you for your time and your commitment to climate solutions, and welcome.
We're never without the stark reminders of the extreme issues facing the world. And while you want to find a solution, how much of an impact can you have as one person? At the University of Central Florida, we're focused on creating big solutions that will drive a culture of sustainability right here at home, the impact of which will be felt far beyond our campus. But what does that really mean? A sustainable future requires meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This necessitates action across all disciplines, from addressing poverty and reducing inequality to equitable sourcing and distribution of clean water and prioritizing energy efficiency. In other words, it's not enough to simply add sustainability to our list of things to do. We must integrate the concepts into everything we do. Pretty big stuff. At UCF, our sustainability goals include becoming carbon neutral by the year 2050, achieving zero waste, and integrating sustainability across all disciplines. And our student organizations, committees, and departments are already taking big steps to reach these goals. From working to make UCF bike-friendly and reducing plastics on campus, to providing local communities with easy access to healthy, fresh food and produce through our community gardens and the Knights Helping Knights Pantry, to employing the latest energy-saving technologies in all building construction, which has already reduced our energy consumption by 38%. We're already taking big steps to reach these goals. The most exciting part? You have the power to help shape the future of sustainability at UCF. Because regardless of your major, specialization, or role, reaching these goals will require action on behalf of every member of the UCF community. Visit sustainable.ucf.edu today to learn how you can get involved. Remember, while sustainability is bigger than just one person can still have a big impact. And it all starts with you.
That's right. Man, UCF has come a long way. It was here on this campus where I started my journey. I remember like yesterday stumbling quite literally into class with Dr. Penelope Canan, our environmental sociology professor, in 2006. And that's where I was woke about the real challenges, environmental and social, that we're being faced with around the world. Dr. Penelope Canan, to this day, continues to be an inspiration for me, so many others, and a major mentor of mine. I was empowered, and I wanted to figure out how to empower other people to take action on advancing the sustainability movement. So when I was a student, I brought together classmates and friends, and we decided to create a student organization on campus called Ideas for Us. And this organization at the time was really focused on getting students from a diverse group of majors together and to work on developing and implementing solutions that would make UCF a showcase and a model for others. Today, that organization, 11 years later, is a global nonprofit that has worked with chapters and affiliates at funding solutions in over 30 countries around the world. I had my first job in this field also working at the UCF Sustainability Initiatives. I approached Dave Norvell, who's still our Director of Sustainability Initiatives, done an amazing job, and I told him that I would give him 10 free hours per week to help him do whatever he needs me to advance this mission. I had some gaps between classes. It was basically free time, and instead of going home, I decided to approach Dave. And Dave had me work on all types of things, our climate action plan that's still implementing, doing lighting retrofits and energy retrofits for different buildings, and even helping to develop a grant and install 107 kilowatts of solar PV today outside of the gym at Garage B. Still the largest solar array on campus, although I think we're starting to change that up here. Fast forward to today, I have the honor of working for Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer as an appointed official, directing the Office of Sustainability and Resilience and working with an amazing team to advance sustainability and climate action in one of the fastest growing cities in America. The last 5 years in Orlando, we've been able to move some incredible policies and programs forward. We're just wrapping up about $17.5 million worth of energy efficiency retrofits for our buildings, now saving us over $2 million per year in actual operational costs for the city. We're installing solar on city rooftops like our new Rec and Wellness, or our new Permanent Records building and our Fleet Facilities Complex, and soon megawatts of solar being added this year. We're also looking at ways in which we can add it to parking lots and even floating solar on retention ponds. We're transitioning our city's fleet to alternatives and all-electrics. We're even incorporating things like all-electric police motorcycles and other vehicles for different departments. We're expanding the urban forest and wildlife habitats, administering even a food waste program, the first in the entire Southeast US, and expanding urban agriculture, and so much more. But through it all, we worked with UCF as one of our closest academic partners to go after research grants. And I'm happy to say that we've been working very closely with the Florida Solar Energy Center, the College of Engineering and Computer Science, and even the College of Public Administration on various different things. We just received a grant for floating solar to test the efficiencies of this technology. We're even looking at smart city solutions by attaching sensors to light poles to develop an air quality network throughout Orlando and better understand the impacts that we're having on public health. This is why I'm super happy to welcome our next guest, Dr. Debra Reinhart, Pegasus Professor and the Associate VP for Research and Scholarship at UCF, and a member of the Civil, Environmental, and Construction Engineering Department. Dr. Reinhart holds a BS in Engineering from Florida Technological University, an MS in Sanitary Engineering, and a PhD in Environmental Engineering from Georgia Tech. Her research focuses on solid waste management with a focus on optimized waste collection and sustainable operations of landfills. From 2011 to 2013, Dr. Reinhart also was a program manager at the National Science Foundation. Let us please welcome Dr. Reinhart to the stage. Good to see you. Thank you so much, Doctor. Pleasure. Don't mind that.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to UCF. You know, last week, I was in DC. I wasn't at the UN, unfortunately, but I was staying in near the Capitol, and when I was walking to my meeting, I noticed that almost every intersection was blocked by climate protesters. Traffic was a mess. It was inconvenient. I was going to say an inconvenient truth, but I was afraid to do that. But anyway. People were late for our meeting, but it was really amazing. And they were joined by over 4 million people in 150 countries throughout the world. So it was eye-opening and made me proud to be doing what I am doing. So on behalf of my generation, to those out here that are younger, I do apologize for creating what we've created. But we are working on it. At UCF, we currently have more than $7 million in active research projects, some of which that Chris has mentioned, involving over 60 individual investigators, and as well as centers such as the Florida Solar Energy Center. They're working on things like waste management, which is something I work on, resiliency, climate change, water and wastewater treatment, and sea level rise. I want to share very quickly some great examples of some of that research. You're going to hear later from Dr. Thomas Wall, who's in our Civil, Environmental, and Construction Engineering Department. And he's working with an international team of researchers that's linking coastal nuisance flooding to a special type of slow-moving ocean wave. And they've found this link between seasonal fluctuations in sea level to this long-time phenomenon called Rossby waves. And this connection may lead to a new tool to help coastal communities, such as our own Miami, better anticipate and mitigate nuisance flooding impacts. We have Linda Walters and Melinda Donnelly. Linda's part of the biology department, and they're working together to stabilize Florida's estuarine shorelines that have severely eroded due to storms and boat wakes. And they've been working on this since 2007. They've restored 82 reefs and stabilized over 2,000 meters of shoreline. And they do this with volunteers. Many of you may have been involved in this as well. We also have Fernando Uribe Romo, who's created a way to trigger a chemical reaction in synthetic material called metal organic frameworks that breaks down carbon dioxide into harmless organic materials. Think of it as an artificial photosynthesis process, similar to the way plants convert CO2 and sunlight into food. At UCF, we also are investing over $8 million in a bunch of clusters, and I have the privilege of being the director of the Faculty Cluster Initiative at UCF. 3 of them are focusing in a multidisciplinary way on society's most pressing needs, including energy issues. For example, we have the Resilient, Intelligent, and Sustainable Energy System cluster that's committing itself to transformative and collaborative research in these areas. They're working with other universities, utilities, and government stakeholders to facilitate deployment and integration of renewable energy resources and providing innovative solutions that make electricity grids efficient and resilient. We have the Coastal Sustainable Cluster, which is a broad-based research and development cluster that's integrating science and social needs to address coastal issues and to train students in conservation and resource management. And finally, we have the Renewable Energy and Chemical Transformation Cluster that's looking at the production of electricity from intermittent renewable sources, such as solar, and to showing it's cost competitive with fossil fuel generating electricity, and also looking at powering transportation through biomass-derived fuels, electricity, and hydrogen. So we are working hard, and I'm excited about today's conference, and I look forward to some great conversations with you. Thanks, and again, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Excellent. Philanthropy plays a pivotal role and has played an incredible role in advancing Orlando's efforts in sustainability and climate action, starting with the City Energy Project, a collaboration of the Institute of Market Transformation and the Natural Resources Defense Council, who came together to help deepen and bolden the commitments of cities to advance energy efficiency in buildings. And now, the Bloomberg American Cities Climate Challenge, the most recent effort of large philanthropy helping to accelerate climate action within cities. Orlando has been fortunate to be part of both of these efforts. And with that, what I've realized is that philanthropy is helping to de-risk de-risk cities in making an investment of hiring a climate advisor or a sustainability director, and letting those advisors funded by philanthropy build the momentum that will roll into building capacity for the city in one of the most pressing things. This is the limiting factor to cities and counties and local governments actually addressing the climate crisis. The vast majority still don't have positions like mine, and philanthropy truly is stepping in. Our next guests are amazing climate philanthropists and are the hosts of from the VoLo Foundation, David and Thais Vogel. David is a world-renowned data scientist expert focusing on mining and predictive modeling, who has earned international recognition for his predictive modeling accuracy. As the founder and CEO of Voloridge Investment Management, an award-winning hedge fund, David has been expertly quoted in Bloomberg, Barron's, and many other charitable and financial topics. He currently serves as a board member of the Environmental Defense Fund, Just Capital, and Amplio. David also holds degrees from MIT and NYU in a lot of very incredible things, including scientific computing and other stuff I can't even pronounce. Thais Lopez Vogel is a philanthropist and former attorney at a Venezuelan state oil company, the 39th largest company in the world. In 2014, she fled from the dark side, and she's decided to co-found with her husband, David, the VoLo Foundation. She's responsible for setting priorities, approving strategies, and allocating resources at the foundation, and she envisions VoLo playing a leadership role in expanding awareness of environmental issues here in Florida specifically and beyond. Her focus is expansive to include childhood education and global health care, which she believes are the building blocks for a sustainable future. Thais attended school at Colegio Emil Friedman and received a law degree at the Universidad Católica Andrés Bello. Hopefully I did well there. Let's give them a round of applause. Welcome.
And thank you all for being here again. It's through your participation that we will discover the most effective solutions and we move the needle on climate correction. So for those of you that know David and I, or for those of you that have seen us speak together, you know that we couldn't be more different. He represents the scientific community, the data, the analysis. I'm the hot Latino wife. No, I'm kidding, I'm not Latino. I like to be in the community. I like the people emotions. I'm the one in the salsa and merengue of the thing. But we do have something in common. We do share 6 children. You can see the children out there. There you go. And these kids are the heart and the soul of the foundation. They are the reason we are here today. When my daughter, the oldest one, was 7 years old, we were celebrating the 4th of July, like many of you, with fireworks. And in the middle of the celebration and the smoke everywhere, she burst into tears and she told me, "Mommy, you're destroying the environment and we're killing polar bears."
Now we know that fireworks doesn't kill polar bears or cause substantial damage to the environment, but we do know that fossil fuel emissions and global warming does. Our daughter had a point. Our generation is causing unprecedented warming by our reliance on fossil fuels. So earlier this year, the VoLo scientists got together and we did calculations on how fast is the warming. We've seen so far 2 degrees Fahrenheit of warming in the past 100 years. The last 1 degree has been in the past 25. We calculated based on basic physics and published numbers by even fossil fuel companies that 15 to 17 years until the next 1 degree Fahrenheit of warming. So it's accelerating. If only us scientists understand the facts and devastating potential of climate change, reform can only go so far. Corporations and the economic community need to internalize the importance of climate solutions so they can influence policy and lawmakers. Corporations are influenced by their consumers, and when they see people buying only from companies that support climate correction, they will shift their business in that direction. Every day, people hold the power, but need to understand the facts to fully understand that, how to use that.
Now we're going to present a little VoLo video.
VoLo Foundation was formed in 2014 by David S. Vogel and Thais Lopez Vogel. David is one of the top predictive modelers in the field of quantitative finance. He and his wife Thais created VoLo Foundation with the goal of using a data-driven approach to philanthropy. Together, David and Thais share 6 children. We like to call them the chief inspiration officers of the foundation. Over the last 5 years, VoLo Foundation's team developed and analyzed historical data sets. They combed through published energy reports to predict future outcomes of climate change. The science shows that as oceans warm, hurricanes will become longer and stronger, and that each 1 degree Fahrenheit, which is 0.55 degrees Celsius, of warming creates an environment to produce 1 additional hurricane per year. 1 degree Fahrenheit of warming also brings increased flooding, not just at the coast, but inland as well. A 2019 analysis by VoLo data scientists suggests that by 2035 we will reach the next 1 degree Fahrenheit of warming, and that based on the amount of carbon currently in the atmosphere, even if we stopped all carbon emissions today, the planet would continue to warm at an unprecedented rate. So, what can we do about it? VoLo's team studied many possible solutions, and while we should all consider making changes to our lifestyle and everyday habits, the data shows that only carbon policy, such as a fee or tax on carbon, will make a difference in the time we have to act. This means you must vote, and you must speak up. Lawmakers have to understand that climate policy is the utmost important solution, and it is up to you to educate them. Let your voice be heard.
VoLo Foundation exists because of my kids, because I owe it to them and we owe it to the next generation. VoLo Foundation exists to be the bridge between the scientific community and the everyday people. We are here because of the void of understanding between the two. So thank you again for coming. Enjoy the speakers. Enjoy a great conference that we put together. And say thank you to you.
And I agree with Thais that leaving us, making the world sustainable is the best thing that we can do for our kids. We are committed to researching data and supporting important projects with our partners and hosting climate correction. Thank you very much to UCF for this profound partnership.
And thank you all for being here.